Welcome to this session on copy editing, an introduction to copy editing. Copy editing is the process of reviewing your work before publication by correcting mistakes, checking for inaccuracies, and preventing repetition in your writing. The Webster's Dictionary defines a copy editor as an editor who prepares copy for the typesetter. That means the final stage of editing, a person who prepares the final stage of editing. Copy editing is a stage in which a piece of writing or the copy is reviewed and edited to improve its readability. Copy editors ensure the style of writing, whether it is consistent and that the text flows organically from one sentence to the next. They also check the work for grammar, punctuation, and continuity, providing suggestions on how to best convey the message of the writer. In addition to content editing, copy editors can act as fact checkers, which is especially necessary if the writing is non-fiction and involves vetting of real information. So a kind of research is necessary when you act as a copy editor. According to Butcher, copy editing are to remove any obstacles between the reader and what the author wants to convey, and to find and solve any problems before the book goes to the typesetter, so that the production can go ahead without interruption or unnecessary expense. The number one priority for a copy editor is to highlight and suggest corrections to grammatical errors, spelling errors, punctuation errors, and syntax. Correct any typos, that means any spelling mistakes which would include misspelled words. There might be changes in spelling with there might be changes in spelling with American spelling, then UK spelling, etc. All these things should be corrected before it is getting printed. And to eliminate superfluous sentences and tighten phrasing in order to help streamline the writer's text. Format the manuscript before printing. You need to check whether all the spacing and other stuff are correct. To conduct a modest fact check, that we have already mentioned, that is kind of research is needed to check whether the informations given are correct, especially with the science journals and other magazines and historical stuff. All these chronological errors might occur, so all these things need to be checked. So this process can also involve research, especially when editing non-fiction works, as we mentioned earlier. If there is no specialized fact checker working on a publication, the copy editor may need to verify the dates and events to maintain factual accuracy. Okay, so yeah. And also a copy editor should impose a consistent style for the text. The Chicago Manual of Style, APA, AMA or MLA, all these things you will be learning in detail. Those things will be explained in the coming videos. All these terms, this what is this, the styles, Chicago Manual of Style, APA, AMA or MLA, all these things will be dealt with in detail in the coming slides. Now just by heart the terms, that you have to learn them in detail. Okay, so this copy editing services are often enlisted by writers or publications before the proofreading stage, but the level of service may vary. These copy editors can be found in publishing houses, at copy desks for news organizations, or often they can be freelancers. The job description for a copy editor varies depending on where they may work. For instance, a copy editor for a small newspaper helps design page outlets, organize newspaper copy for print or online publication, and decides which news stories should run. But it may not be the same with a medical journal or any other academic journal. Some copy edits are light, which means a writer will only receive the most basic level of editing, like grammar and syntax. Heavy copy edits or substantiative editing is a deeper involvement with the text that can involve reorganization of passages, tweaking of style and voice, and even rewriting things. You have to deal with the different types of editing in detail. This is only an introduction to it, so I'm not going into the different major varieties of this copy editing, and you have to learn different kinds of typesetters and the ways in which, since you have actually looked into the syllabus by now in detail and you have checked in that reference book in detail, you might be knowing that there are so many things coming up. All those things we will be dealing with when we deal with those typesetters and other stuff in detail. Now we'll just look into the three basic divisions of different types of copy editing. One is light copy editing, another one is medium copy editing, and the final one is heavy copy editing. So basically this light copy editing is this just correcting the faulty spelling, grammar, punctuation, etc., and you should check into the incorrect usage of words, checking specific cross references. Suppose you have made reference from about a historical aspect from an encyclopedia or something, this copy editor has to check whether that is right or wrong. Sometimes you have quoted some thing from an author and you might have given some like page numbers to it. That also that person need to cross check whether it is right or wrong. Those things we'll learn in detail later. Ensuring consistency in spelling, hyphenation, numerals, fonts, and capitalization. All these things need not be changed. For example, the spelling of the word color. At one place you will be using this American spelling, COLO R, and another time you might be using CLOUR, UK, British pronunciation and or spelling. That those kind of things should be avoided like this, like that. Checking for proper sequencing such as alphabetical order, chronological order in lists, especially when it comes to this appendix. You need to keep on checking all these stuff. Recording the first references to figures, this tables and other display, the elements, all these things need to be checked. Now coming to the medium copy editing, changing text and headings to achieve parallel structure, all those font stuff, flagging inappropriate figures of speech. So this medium copy editors need much more literary talent. That is what you need to understand, and the grammatical skills. Ensuring that key terms are handled consistently and that vocabulary lists and the index contain all the terms that meet criteria specified by the publisher. Okay, or each and every publisher has a certain criteria and norms. All these things need to be fulfilled, or the copywriter has to ensure that all these things are being well done. Ensuring that reviews, summaries, and end of chapter questions reflect content. Then tracking the continuative plot setting and character trace and querying the discrepancies in fiction manuscript. Of course, you might be knowing that the publishing house or the publishers has the right to make certain changes if they didn't like the way the author has dealt with all the characters in a particular fiction. All these things we'll later discuss in either in the live class or in the next other videos. Then enforcing consistent style and tone in a multi-author manuscript. Sometimes, especially when with the publication of these articles in journals, sometimes they may be multi-authored. Definitely, each of us have varied writing style. We all differ in our writing style, so that sometimes that creates problem, especially when two authors co-author something and try to get it published in something that of international standards. In that case, changing passive voice to active voice if requested by if the requested by the publisher. Then flagging ambiguous or incorrect statements, type marking the manuscript. These are the things that you need to keep in mind when you are doing the job of a medium level copywriter. All these things. Okay. Then, coming to this heavy copy editing or the substantiative editing, eliminating wordiness, triteness, and inappropriate jargon, smoothing. That is, wordiness means a kind of a repetition of ideas. Then triteness also the repetition of the words with same or some kind of meaning and all, and inappropriate jargon. Especially jargonizing the whole statement or whole paragraph is considered as inappropriate. Smoothing transitions and moving sentences to improve readability. Assigning new levels to heads to achieve logical structure. Suggesting and sometimes implementing additions and deletions, noting them at the sentence and paragraph level. So these are the things a heavy copy editor has to keep in mind. Then we'll look into the 5 Cs of copy editing. As I mentioned, all these things, these types of copy editing, we'll deal with in detail later. The 5 Cs of copy editing help to determine what it is that the copy editor does or what they need to do. One is the basic 5 Cs. One is clear, correct, concise, comprehensive, and consistent. These 5 Cs also we'll deal with in detail later. So now coming to the skills that a copy editor requires, or what is happening in the whole process of copy editing. That is, first of all, he needs an excellent command of the language, because the number one priority for a copy editor is to highlight and suggest corrections to grammatical errors, spelling errors, punctuation errors, syntax, sentence structure, etc. Although these areas may be tackled by a proofreader, there is a difference between proofreading and copy editing that also comes under another title. You need to look into those things later. Then although these areas may be tackled by a separate proofreader, a copy editor still needs to address them as they see them, as they may affect the content of the work itself. And as I mentioned earlier, he should have the ability to identify the factual errors. That means he should be a well-read person, an eye for detail and critical thinking skills that allow them to see inconsistencies in the work. And these people also should need an excellent interpersonal skill so that they can communicate effectively with publishers and other editors, so that they sometimes they all follow some kind of general pattern, so they can work together. Then also there might be too many words sometimes which can bog down a text and confuse the reader. A good copy editor will be able to eliminate these kind of superfluous sentences and tighten phrasing in order to help, especially to streamline the writer's story or message, whatever he has written. And the formatting of manuscript we have already discussed. Then about the punctuation and other stuff we had mentioned, all these things will come. And also copywriting is a tool to ensure that every written word an individual or company produces supports the goal of those writing them, because each and every publisher or the people who they have aligned with, or the companies whom they have aligned with, might be following a particular kind of ideology, and you need to ensure that that ideology is being followed, or those kind of norms and regulations are being followed in the writing. This ensures that the basic mechanics of writing are correct. And mechanics, the style of writing. Then copy editors always serve the needs of three constituencies: the author, the publisher, and the readers. Of course, suppose you are editing a children's book, children's cartoon, you edit in such a way. So that means that there the author also might be keeping those audience or readers as children in his mind, and he'll be writing things. And the publisher also might be thinking the same. Okay, how he can this publisher can make more money by creating more books for children. And then the readers are children themselves, they also need to be impressed, then only their books will be sold. And also there are so many other stuff that are coming under the category of the job of this copy editors, that we look into later. And also you should understand that this copy editors always serve the needs of these constituencies. They always ensure that the requirements of these three group, or this reader and publisher, are being met. Okay, to that end, the copy editor acts as the author's second pair of eyes, pointing out and usually correcting mechanical errors and inconsistencies in content. And Also, we can say that copy editing is one step in the whole process of writing and publishing, by which a manuscript is turned into a final published product. So we'll stop here, and please girls wait for the next video, where we will be discussing the important terms that come under copy editing, different types of copy editing, etc. Have a nice day.